expenditures for unsupported transfer to health. If it's going to help, we can rename them three. I think, but that's
Governor, that's unnecessary. I think we are not putting you to task on anything, and let's not be too defensive. If we want to waste time, we can read through every matter. We can go through all these documents. What I'm saying is we are going to retreat. The Auditor General has given us an assurance that the 12 million, he can see how they are distributed. So let's not waste time, honorable members. We have bigger matters in this report. When we are referring to this matter, we'll look at Annex 2B and 2A, and it is clear that for, just 2 or 3 issues, all these mountains of documents have been provided. This is not prudent use of public resources. So I think the point has been made. We can go to another issue. There, as I said, there are bigger issues than this 12 million. So
but finally, on that, Chair, many of the documents in this Annex 2A are receipts for purchases for the hospitals. Just skimming through some of them, and because you have not paginated, it's difficult for me to refer you to the specific ones. But you will see that in many of those receipts, the quantities of the things being purchased are not present, and as a CPA yourself, you know that that is a bit problematic. I'll give you just 3 examples. So for instance, there is a receipt you have attached here from, I think it's Takawa shop or something like that. It just says 1 cylinder full for gas refilling, 3,000. So would anyone know what size of gas that is? I have seen another one here says 8 pieces of electric bulbs. 8 pieces of electric bulbs. One bulb you're buying at 500 shillings. I don't know what type of bulb that is. Then the last one, Chair, is 1 trip of water tracking to the facility by water bowser. And I have no way of knowing if this is 6,000 liters, 12,000 liters. The receipt doesn't say, but there's an amount there of 15,000. So, Auditor General, when you go through some of these documents, don't just come tell the Senate that the issue has been resolved. You must interrogate whether the documentation that has been presented makes sense. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, that is a risk of coming with mountains of documents to the Senate, because you have brought them to the Senate. And so we have a right to scrutinize and go page by page. In fact, if it was not for efficiency of time, we could sit here up to 10 p.m. going through these documents. But I think, members, the point raised by Senator Sifuna, Senator Chewarke, and Senator Lelegwe, I think for Senator Lelegwe will require a response from the auditor.
Chair, the transfers were made to dispensaries only and not level 4 hospitals. The number of dispensaries are 69 in number.
69 in number, and you told us you have a schedule indicating the amounts that went to every specific hospital.
Yes, Chair, we have shared that to our liaison officer.
I've already shared in the group for the 12 million.
Okay, honorable members, I want us to proceed to undisclosed account payables. Here we are dealing with a huge figure of 1.3 billion. I think that would be a better use of the time of the Senate rather than going through 300 pages of receipts. Auditor General.
Thank you, Chair. Undisclosed accounts payables. The statement of financial position reflects trade and other payables balance of Kenya shillings 3,586,603,121 as disclosed in Note 17 to the financial statements. Included in the balance is an amount of Kenya shillings 1,314,679,306 being additional payables which were not disclosed in the prior year's audited financial statements. Examination of payment records relating to various projects revealed that an amount of Kenya shillings 202,671,592 was paid during the year in respect of projects that were initiated and procured in the previous financial years. However, the pending bills were not disclosed in the prior year's audit financial statements. This is contrary to paragraph 2.2.4 of the National Treasury Circular number that dated 25th June 2019, which requires the disclosures of pending bills to enhance transparency in the management. The circular requires that pending bills movement should be disclosed to provide transparency in the handling of outstanding bills and to facilitate informed decision making, particularly concerning long outstanding pending bills. Thank you, Chairman.
Governor, you may take us through your response?
Mr. Chairman, the payments in question relate to legitimate obligations arising from projects and commitments undertaken in previous financial years under the former county administration. The omission of these obligations from the disclosed list of pending bills was not deliberate but resulted from reconciliation challenges, incomplete supporting documentations, and limitations associated with cash basis reporting framework that was in use at the time of the preparation of the financial statements. Upon subsequent verification, reconciliation, and confirmation of the outstanding obligation, management processed the payments to settle valid liabilities and avoid further delays, accumulation of penalties, interruption of subsidy delivery, and potential litigation risks against the county government. The payments were therefore made in respect of general obligations incurred by the county and were aimed at safeguarding public resources and ensuring compliance with contractual commitments. The county treasury has commenced the implementation of the accrual-based accounting and reporting in accordance with applicable public sector accounting standards. As part of this transition, all pending liabilities and acquired assets are required to be disclosed and recognized appropriately in the financial statements beginning financial year 2024-25. During the transition process, the county treasury undertook a comprehensive reconciliation of pending bills and identified liabilities that had not been disclosed in previous financial statements prepared under the cash basis accounting framework. Management has strengthened their review, reconciliation, and reporting processes relating to pending bills to ensure that all outstanding obligations are accurately captured, verified, and disclosed in future financial statements. The county treasury has also enhanced coordination with pending departments to ensure timely submission of supporting documentation and periodic reconciliation of liabilities throughout the financial year. Management remains committed to improving financial reporting processes and internal controls to ensure accurate, complete, and transparent disclosure of pending bills and to prevent recurrence of similar audit queries in future financial years. Thank you.
Okay, we had the benefit of discussing this with the Auditor General earlier, and we have a big problem with this particular matter because the Auditor General says that 1.3 billion in the form of pending bills was manufactured in that year, for lack of a better word. They were not disclosed in the prior year, they emerged in the year under review. What is the assurance that these are not manufactured pending bills to the tune of 1.3 billion? Because the issue is disclosure. And from a financial reporting perspective, disclosure and settlements are two different things. You must recognize your liabilities. You must recognize your contingent liabilities. Even if there were 20 billion, you must recognize, you must disclose them. But if you don't disclose and all of a sudden you have 1.3 billion, which is about, is that $10 million? It's actually a round figure when converted to dollars. It might give the impression that someone was looking for $10 million and decided to manufacture pending bills. Now, the Treasury are the ones who came up with that circular. Let's first get the basis of this query before we ask the governor to respond. What is the responsibility of an entity in terms of disclosure of liabilities?
Thank you, Senators. We are talking about contingent liabilities. That is liabilities that might crystallize or they may not crystallize. And therefore, the way to account for them, the prudent way of accounting for the contingent liabilities, first you want to disclose all the liabilities. Then you exhaust the other means that you're using to verify those variability. The ones that are verifiable, they are paid. The ones that are not verifiable, they are not paid. That is the position, Honorable Chair.
So can you disclose a lower amount because you think they might not be valid, and then bring them up in the subsequent year?
Chair, you're supposed to disclose all of them, because if you disclose a low amount and in the subsequent years you bring in other figures, then they will look strange. So the prudent way is that disclose all of them and know when they crystallize, now you can pay, and you can even be able to explain where they are coming from. Thank you.
And so that's what gives credence to the suspicion that this could be manufactured bills. Governor, you want to respond, or members, you want to put in some questions? Do we first get the governor's response? Okay. Yeah, Governor, you may respond.
Chair, I just want to state a few things. Number one, the allegation of manufacturing of fictitious liability is a very serious allegation, and it has never come up either in the exit meeting or in all the discussions we've had with the auditor. Number one. Number two, we both recognize, myself and the auditors, the specific challenge that Wajir County has had with respect to brought forward liabilities, because the opening balances of 1 year, even in the auditor's financial statements, have never really agreed with the closing balance of payables in the previous year. The assumption of, and we've had this conversation before with this committee, the assumption of office report had 5.6 billion shillings of pending liability. The auditor's own investigation report into pending bills had a totally different number, as low as 300 and something. And our own verification through other independent consultants brought something a bit closer to the figure of 1.7. And even that with a lot of caveats, because the system of procurement had completely collapsed in the period between 2018 and 2022. So what we have done, and there are even actually physical structures for which people had LSOs, but which were not in any of those reports. So what we have done as a county government is to pay what is physically verifiable. Absence of a complete listing of accounting payables, either from the auditor or from the assumption of office report or from the outside consultants. So the approach we took was twofold. Number one, track our own payables from commitment to payment so that we don't add to the problem. And two, deal with the historical pending bills by concentrating on what is verifiable, which is classrooms, dispensaries, water wells, the things that were verifiable. So, because this is a very serious allegation, Chair, what I suggest is, because, the allegation that we manufacture pending bills is very, very serious, that the auditor be tasked with, I'm actually requesting this as governor, investigating the 1.3 that is being claimed we paid and are manufactured. Because each of them must have a name, project name, what it is, where it is. I'm here in this manufacturing business now. I know there are reconciliation issues on our accounting payables as a result of that historical problem, which has no easy fix.
Governor, you as an FCPN, you know that closing and opening balances ought to tie. It is your responsibility to explain to the Senate how the 1.3 billion came to be. In your written response, you've done prose. You've just written composition. Unless there is clarity on the process that was followed, obviously the Treasury has already told us your responsibility with respect to recognition of liabilities. That was not done properly. If you do not provide a proper explanation, we shall take home the conclusion that 1.3 billion was manufactured. So, Governor, the auditors cannot go back to do an investigation. I think it is for you to explain to this committee the processes, because a lot of numbers, you've given a lot of numbers, 5.6 billion from assumption of office, 300 million from the auditors, 1.7 billion from your own internal analysis. How did these 1.3 then, how are they exhumed and made payable? Because, or are they additions for the year? Auditor General, we need to be clear. Yeah. Is the 1.3 additions for the year, or those are historical liabilities? Let's make that, let's have that distinction.
Thank you, Chair. The 1.3 relates to an historical liability.
So they are historical, because if they're additions for the year, then we shouldn't have a problem. So how did you exhume 1.3 billion worth of pending bills and recognize them as payable? I think that's the question that you must answer and not the Auditor General.
Yeah.
Senator Umbua.
So listening to the Governor, I'm left wondering whether then he is disputing this figure. He's saying that he doesn't know about this figure, because even in his responses, he actually doesn't even make an attempt to try and give a breakdown of that figure of 1.3 billion. It's just a statement that he gives. So, Governor, are you disputing that? Are you saying that that figure does not belong to you? It is the work of the Office of the Auditor General?
Can we consolidate the question so that we are a bit efficient? Senator Cherargei?
Yeah, I find the Governor's management response, although you have called it composition, confusing, because in one aspect he says there was issue of reconciliation challenges, incomplete supporting documentation, limitation associated with cash basis reporting. Then on the second paragraph he said, upon subsequent verification, reconciliation and confirmation of outstanding obligations, then they settle valid liabilities. So, Governor, if you are disputing 1.3 billion as being manufactured, or let me not use the word manufacture, it doesn't sit well with you, or being cooked, the 1.3 you are talking about, what was the justification in your second paragraph? That would be question number one. Number two, Governor, through the chair, looking at under 1 year on this 1.3 billion that has been cooked, it's 38%. Looking at over 3 years, it's 1.7 billion, 48%. Looking at aging analysis in note number 17, and it is good you are an FCPA, you have accumulated 52% of the pending bill of 3.5 billion. There is an exponential growth under 1 year of 38%. That is the one we are talking about, 1.3 billion. So in this 1.3 billion, that is, let me look your years that you have been in office, between 2 to 3 years, 1 to 2 years, and 1.5 years. This is 52% of 3.5 billion. This exponential growth makes us believe that this account payables, trade and other payables was cooked. Number three, and finally, you have said verification. What was, and you have the people who had LSO and other justifiable that was not captured, and you are an FCPA, you know, non-disclosure of such in your financial statement is grave. So when you say verification, did you gazette a verification committee? Is there a report that that committee went through the chair? Is there a committee that sat? And where is that report that can attach to verification in terms of this 1.3 billion? And I want to agree with Senator Wambua that even in response of Governor, he has not attached to break down to show that 1.3 billion chair. Unless what the Governor is requesting, in conclusion, that will be my final question, is a forensic audit with a view of prosecution. Because if he's demanding an audit, it should be forensic. Because if it is cooked, then that 1.3 billion under 1 year is very serious. So, Chair, that will be my three questions.
So I think Senator Cherargei has done a comprehensive analysis of note 17, which has the aging as well. But we might lose the point on the 1.3 the additional liabilities that were undisclosed. So Governor, maybe just start by restricting yourself to the 1.3. We have no visibility in your response on the process that you undertook to certify the 1.3. I think that is what is missing. That is what you didn't explain. Give us that explanation so that we can expunge the impression of manufacturing from our minds. Just start with the 1.3 billion. Run us through that process.
Chair, the list of, is this part of the documentation? Where is it? Yes, in the financial statement. The list of the 1.3 is part of the financial statements, and it's listed item by item. Item by item. This is, and it shows what it is. It is not in note 17. So, and
no, note 17 is a summary. Note 17 is just the aging, your summarized reporting.
In the financial statements.
You see, Governor, just to help you, in the cash basis reporting, you used to attach the list of pending bills. When we went to accrual, we stopped attaching it. So I think your officers should guide you properly. Note 17 is a summary, is a summation, which also has a problem because the aging of staff payables has not been done, and we'll be coming to that. Okay, proceed.
Chair, and we can provide the listing of what makes up the 1.3. I've just been given here. So I don't know whether the auditor has that, of what has the 1.3. And I want to put it on record that none of this is fictitious because they are itemized. It says what it is, and mostly it's actually developmental. It's largely construction and ECD classrooms, toilets, wherever. And these are things that can be verified. So, and I am not...
Would you like to just help us understand the process? Because in prior year, you disowned them, the 1.3. And in this year, you are saying, okay, we shall pay. It's the process that I think we could start with, because the details of the listing really is your purview as a CEO.
Now, the process is, let me spread this, I mean, because there's also the question of the current one that Senator Chergey raised. With respect to an historical, let me put that into perspective, historical pending bills, because of the situation of the record keeping and that nothing agreed to nothing, we decided that we'll take all those reports, isolate what is verifiable, and only pay what is verified. When we go and see this classroom was indeed done in that period between 18 to 22, but it was not paid, this is what we pay. You know,
Chair, on a matter of procedure, I wish when the governor is reading, we are on the same page. So we are just listening to him. Is there a document so that we can...
Okay. Governor, if there is a document or an annexure we can refer to, you can point us.
I thought I started by saying we have the list, and the auditor also verified that he has the list of the 1.3, and we can provide that to
do we have it anywhere?
We have it. It's not in the...
It's in the annexure of the financial statement, because the report we are doing is...
No, Governor. Under accrual, you guys didn't attach that list. You used to attach it under cash. So it's not there. What's there, note 17 is a summation. And I think it's fair, if it's not here, just to say that you shall provide it, so that it's not protracted.
Chair, I've just seen from... I've just seen in our WhatsApp page, an Excel document has been shared by the auditor containing the list of 1.3.
No, honourable members, let's not refer to all those extraneous things. Governor, the major concern, even before we come to the composition...
I was explaining the process.
Is the process.
I was explaining the process.
Please.
With respect to the historical pending bills, because of the situation of incomplete records that we inherited, and all these attempts by the Auditor General, by the Assumption Office Committee, and by the independent consultant that we hired, we brought together everything that they said, because each of them was also coming with a lot of caveats to say we were unable to whatever. And in some of those years, if you go back, there are actually disclaimers on the audit opinion. So what we then decided to do is to deal, because it was both ways. There were people who were claiming things that weren't done, and there were things that were done which were not in any report. So we decided, and we made this public, that we will pay what is verifiable. And the list of the 1.3 is what we've paid that is verifiable. The auditor has said he has. If seller doesn't have, we are willing to provide. And I'm even willing further to say if there is any of that that is believed to be manufactured, it will be subjected to further audit process to ensure
sorry, Governor,
because for us, we paid what we verified.
Just for clarification,
yeah,
you've made a statement that we must understand properly.
Yeah.
Is a 1.3 billion paid or payable?
Payable.
Because you say paid.
Payable.
Yeah.
Payable.
And again,
yeah,
our problem is not even in the payment. Our problem is lack of recognition in prior year, and then all of a sudden you have a 1.3 billion bill. I don't know whether we have understood the process as explained by the governor.
I have gotten even further confused.
Senator Sifuna?
Because the governor is saying, I don't know when that process began, Governor. When did the process of looking? You basically went out to hunt for bills. Because you're saying you got into office, there are no records, then you make an announcement that we are looking for people who we might owe money. Is that the story? When did that process begin?
And Senator, let me explain what happened.
Certainly when the process began, which year?
It began immediately we came into office, but it took quite some time.
That's 2022.
It's 2022. Right?
Yes.
So what we did is we first took what is available. We looked at the financials. What was disclosed in the financials?
So just there,
yeah,
there is where you are losing me,
yes,
Governor.
Yes.
So there was something.
Yes.
In the financials.
Yes.
How come the auditor is saying there was no such thing? Because in the prior years we should have seen some amounts, but we have a situation where from 2022 up to now, out of nowhere, we are hit with 1.3 billion.
No, I think that we do not agree with contention.
Yeah, that's the case.
We don't agree with.
No, that's what is before us, Governor. We are able to interpret the report of the Auditor General and also your financial statements.
And Chair, let me put this in this way and allow me time to explain this process. Number one, there was a figure.
How much time do we have to explain all these things? Really?
Okay.
Surely.
Did you want to make an interjection?
Yes, I want to.
Okay, let's take the question from Senator Wangua,
Chair,
so that you factor it in your explanation.
First of all, and the governor surely must know this better than me, better than all of us. He is an accomplished accountant. If a disclosure has not been made, and it forms the basis of an audit query, as a responsible government, as an accountant, the thing that you do is to provide detailed explanation in terms of financials, not pros, not saying this is what we are doing, this is what we did. Now, I hear the governor and the office of the Auditor General are talking about a document that is supposed to explain this query, which document we don't have. Yeah. How are we supposed to process that query?
Chair, just
Senator Chiradke.
Governor can come clean. I have heard him alluding that when they came to office, they assessed these trade payables and it is historical. But when you look at aging analysis, there is an over 3 years, which I believe is historical of 1.7 billion.
Yeah.
So he's confusing us further by saying he's referring to historical, yet we have 1.7 already. Yet under this, under 1 year is 1.3 billion. So, Chair, the governor should assist us by being very clear in this between 1.7 and 1.3, because that breakdown, we want to arrive at 1.3 billion so that we remove the assertion that it was manufactured. And Chair, when you look even at the schedule, I don't know what you people drink in Wajir. He was spending in food and drinks of 6.5 million. For me, it looks like they were going to fish and telling hotel, how much did we drink? Tulikunywa chai na mandazi, nini, 6.5. If you look at that schedule, it looks, it had been, they went hunting as what Senator Sifuna for these bills. If you look at the schedule.
So in the, Governor, in the absence of a detailed explanation, the senators are not wrong to speculate. And so let's give the governor an opportunity to explain. If there is need for documentary evidence to support his explanation, we can give those directions. But we are all interested in finding out how 1.3 billion just dropped from the skies. Was it some pensions that hadn't been paid or some gratuities that, you know, all of a sudden came to your attention? Please help us understand that.
Chair, I think we're mixing issues here. So let me first of all separate two things. Because Senator Cherargei has also talked about bills of less than 1 year. Matters of less than 1 year have to do with cut-off issues. We are in June now, for instance. We have incurred commitments. We have not received the money for May and June. Even if we receive it before midnight of 30th of June, chances are that by the time the system is closed, some of that money will not have been utilized. So those are just timing issues from 1 year to the other with respect to the payables that are within the 1 year.
And I don't think we don't have a problem with that.
What I'm trying to address,
let's deal with the 1.3.
Is 1.3, which is under the note on the accounts payable, and which the auditor has clarified he has the listings, the detailed listings that add to that 1.3. And we're saying those are the historical verified physical structures which we decided to pay on account of the incompleteness of the record that we inherited. And that the records were incomplete.
Okay, let's give him 1 minute to finish.
Because that schedule.
Can I just finish, Senator, please?
Governor, because
I might lose my thought.
We want to follow what you're saying.
Okay, Governor, just give it a moment.
That schedule that has been shared,
yes.
Does it have a column for us to understand when these invoices were incurred? Is there a column to show us that this is from 2021 or 2022?
It has. Yes, it has.
Which column is that? Because the one that has, I'm using Cherargei's very expensive phone, Chair.
Because I'm the government, so you can imagine.
If I break it.
I know the county can disown anything that is coming from Cherargei's gadget, so
yes.
you'd rather use your own phone.
If I use my own phone, they will accuse me of being manufacturing. So, Governor, which column here shows me when these bills were actually incurred, so that I know it is historical? Because the dates I'm seeing is there's a column there that says just 1 minute payment date, and Honorable Chair, they are all from 2024, 2025. So that when you tell us it's historical,
Senator, you have raised a very valid and important point. But let's not lose the question on process, on who is it who decided that this 1.3 billion should... Yes, because, you know, on the face of it, as I said, that's $10 million, 1.3 billion. So we need to allay that fear. So Governor, I don't know, you are not very detailed on the process. Is it your finance officer who said, Governor, all of a sudden we've got this 1.3 billion, let's pay? Was it a task force? Was it internal audit? Was it Auditor General? And obviously Auditor General cannot be part of that. Yeah. So what was the process? What was the decision-making process to recognize the 1.3 billion as payables?
It was a multi-departmental committee that now had to receive all the reports. And every department again was told, can you then physically go and check what in every locality is a physical item that has not been paid or is being claimed. They went with the report physically.
Chair, you'll accuse me of being impatient, but anybody would get impatient with this, honestly, because if it's a committee, then that was said. You know, I'm saying this issue, even a memo that sets up that committee and say, you know, the governor, because this is a very material audit query. You should have come here and told us, on this date, the departments were told to have a multi-agency, whatever, meeting to forward the claims in their departments with any documentation that's available. And after that, this is what the meeting followed, this is what we got. The minutes of the meetings, finally, it was decided from this department, 5 million. From this department, 20 million. From this department, 30 million. Cumulatively, 1.3 billion. That's what we did. Oh. Chair, anything short of that is just stories.
So let's, maybe we have different ways of contextualizing things.
Chair,
but Governor, Senator Lelegwe has a query which might be beneficial so that you can consolidate everything.
When I go through the Excel sheet provided to the auditor, there is a more suspicious figure of a repeated 60 entries of an amount of 1,399,000 amounting to 83 million. A similar figure for 60 entries.
And that's a risk of looking at reports that have not been tabled under oath.
Yeah. That amounts to about 83.9 million.
Governor, can I help you? Can you go back to the process,
Chair,
before you go to the content?
Let me. I think here the problem is that I'm not even being allowed to say what I want to say up to the end.
I have given you the floor.
Chair, I have said, with respect to the historical, and by the way, we provided even the report of the consultants to the auditor and to Senate, and we'll bring the evidence that we actually sent all those reports to Senate when all those reports were done. Every single report that was done, we provided to Senate, we provided to EACC, we provided to the Controller of Budget, and we'll send to this committee all the forwarding letters and the proof that they were received in the Senate. Because of the situation we were in, and we were under a lot of pressure from the public to pay pending bills, we had to go for what was verifiable. Senator Lelegwe, it's not unusual to find one figure if you're doing the same things. For instance, if it's one classroom, chances are that the classroom will be awarded for the same amount across. If it's toilets, probably the same amount across. And this is what I'm saying. Because this is a note, and there's a listing attached to it, we interrogate that listing and we physically verify those. We physically verify when they were done. I have no problem with that. And I think that's what I would have expected the auditors to do. But as to why we were bringing it in, because nothing agreed. The figure that was brought forward in the financials even if it's through a memorandum record recognized payable, did not agree with the investigation report by the Auditor General on pending payables, did not agree with the assumption of reports office, and did not agree with what the consultant did. And it was, Chair, I'll give you an example. In the assumption of office report, there was 600 million, I can't remember the exact figure, relating to things of physical nature which were not physically on the ground, including boreholes, including classrooms, including fencing of hospitals, but which the committee of the consultants working with the one that we established, because they still had to work with the people to go around, could not actually see. There are villages we went to where we were told there were classrooms, and you go to that village and you find the kids are in under trees. Yet the assumption of report said there were classrooms in there. And this is why we decided we'll only pay what was verified. So this is the situation. And I remember, Chair, we had these conversations about Wajir pending bills in the first committee of PAC. So this is what I'm dealing with. As to what is current, Chair, there is no problem. It's just a timing issue. Whatever we carry forward, because sometimes it's also multi-year projects, which is not paid by 30th of June. When we get our money and the system opens, we pay. And we track our commitments. I'll give you an example, Chair. One of the things we are struggling with is to pay statutory payables carried forward, which was not done for 25 months within that period. We have paid our statutory reductions every single month under the current regime. But when you're left with 9 billion, 7 billion, 6 billion pending bills left, right, and center, even my entire development budget after I paid salaries cannot cover that in 5 years. And this is why there's a conversation between Senate and National Treasury on those, for instance, statutory liabilities. Because statutory liabilities is very easy to verify. There can be no fictitious statutory liabilities. People deducted people's money and never remitted for 25 months. I have no way of making that up unless all I'll be doing is to pay what was left by the past regime and I don't provide services. This is the situation.
Governor, I have a separate query on statutory remittances of 732 million. We'll deal with it because it's a big thing that applies to all counties. We cannot leave the 1.3 billion until we are sure of the process. And I thought that you're going to tell us that there are minutes, there are reports which can be provided. Because they will
provide all the minutes, all the constitution of the committees, all the reports of every team that looked into the payables.
The problem is this. When we sat at the first meeting, when you came back to office, the issue of ghost pending bills was big. In fact, many of us here sat through the impeachment proceedings of the former governor of Wajir. And many of the allegations were to do with pending bills and financial impropriety, interest management, etc. We have that background. And what we have expected you to do in your administration is to write down, to verify and get rid of fake bills progressively. So 2022, 2023, you had a huge stock. I don't know whether it was 5 billion or 7 billion, whatever it was. 2023, 2024, your accountants certified a figure as being the accounts payables. Then 2024, 2025, the same accountants and heads of departments tell you, sorry, to achane na ile last year we have 1.3 billion more to pay. That is where the problem is. If in 2023, 2024, the roads department said that their pending bills were 500 million, and then it was certified and the CPAs put their signatures on this report, how do they come again next year and tell you, no, it wasn't 500, it is now 800? You see, that's the problem. That's the problem. And if it's done through internal mechanisms, it can result in rigging of bills. It can result in manufacturing of bills. So we need to get clarity on that process. All of us here sometimes get petitions from members of the public, our bills are not being paid, but our position is clear. If the bill is verified and the county government has agreed to it, it should be paid. It is fairly unusual to see a growth in historical pending bills. The general trend is a reduction because you are doing verification and you are dismissing those things that you are talking about that were said to be on the ground and yet they were not there. So that is why we have spent a little bit of time here, because it is an unusual trend where it is going up. And I know that in our first conversation you were concerned that it was too high. So I don't know how it hit, the curve started going up rather than going down.
Chair, I fully agree with you, but it depends on what you started from. If you are starting from the assumption of office report